Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya and today I'm meeting you in a new location outdoors. I thought I'd bring you guys outside as the whole of last week we've been inside in my studio for all of the videos, and I've spent majority of my time there editing the videos. So I thought a little bit of fresh air and a change in view would be good for all of us. Today, I'm introducing a new series called Deep Dive, which, as the name suggests, is going to give you a detailed overview on some of the most iconic Indian models and international models, and give you all the information you could hope for on these cars in as simple and straightforward a manner as possible. Now, before we get into the new episode, I wanted to give you a quick understanding of why I picked the Mahindra Scorpio as the first car to do a deep dive on, as I have a very strong personal link to the SUV. The Scorpio was the first SUV my family ever purchased, and we've had multiple iterations of it since, and it was also the car that I learned how to drive on. So now I'm gonna share with you all the information I have about the Mahindra Scorpio. So let's get into it. In order to understand why Mahindra developed the Scorpio, you're gonna have to have a rough understanding of what the Indian car scene was like in the mid-1990s. Back then, the multi-utility vehicle or MUV space was dominated by the Toyota Qualis. And for those of you youngsters who don't know what the Qualis is, it's essentially the predecessor to the Innova. And the reason it was so popular was because it offered comfort, space, and Toyota's legendary reliability. And then in 1998, Tata introduced the Safari, and it took the Indian motoring world by storm. It offered large dimensions, muscular styling, and features seen only in higher segment cars. All of this at a relatively affordable price point. So while all this was unfolding between the Qualis and the Safari, Mahindra was watching and they wanted to jump into the competition. However, their lineup was either too dated or too utilitarian to compete. So they had two options. What? They could either update a current existing model like the Armada with new looks and features and market it as a new model, or they could go ahead and build an all-new model from scratch, tailor-made to take on the competition. The former was the more sensible, the easier and more cost-effective choice. However, that could lead to them not getting as much attention. The latter would require more effort, more time, more investment, but it could lead to a winner. That is the gamble they had to take, and they chose the latter. And Project Scorpio was born. Project Scorpio had a very tight deadline of just 5 years of development, and it had a budget of only 600 crores, which is quite small, especially when you consider that it was supposed to be a global model to be sold not only in India but a number of select international markets as well. So Project Scorpio was led by Dr. Pawan Goenka and Mr. Alan Durant, along with a small group of engineers that didn't exceed the number of 30. And they had to put a lot of innovation, creativity and passion into this project in order to achieve their goal. Mahindra took a very unique approach to the development of the Scorpio. Unlike most other major OEMs that develop all the parts and test all the small components in-house, Mahindra decided that they are going to compartmentalize. What I mean by this is that while Mahindra did design the new ladder frame chassis as well as an all-new engine and the overall styling of the Scorpio, they did approach well-established suppliers internationally to help get components that would be used both under the skin and on the interior. And not only did they let them design the components and source materials for it, but they also let them carry out the testing of it, which saved Mahindra a lot of time and helped keep costs in check. Meanwhile, at the same time, Mahindra was doing something else. They were setting up a new state-of-the-art facility to manufacture the new Scorpio with an automated assembly line that was helped designed by a US-based firm, and they got robots for the assembly line from a company in Austria. They also used computer-aided design or CAD to help design the Scorpio so that they could get better build quality and match international standards. Mahindra also used this time to develop their new ladder frame chassis, their 2.6-litre turbo diesel engine that was designed in-house, and they even sourced a new 2-litre petrol engine from Renault, all while they were preparing to receive the components from their international suppliers. Once everything was all together, they were ready to put their first 50 units of the test mules in place to begin the final stage of testing. Once the test mules were ready, Mahindra began the grueling process of final road testing. And they put the Scorpio through various harsh weather condition tests as well as a variety of road condition testing. And bam! The Scorpio is ready to hit the showrooms. Now, I'm going to walk you through the generations of the Scorpio very briefly. However, I use the term generations very loosely, as Mahindra has not distinctly defined any of the generations of the Scorpio. Instead, this is what's largely accepted to be the generations of the model. The first generation of the Scorpio was sold between 2002 and 2006, and it was very well received in the Indian market. It offered large proportions, butch styling, and a relatively spacious cabin. All of this at quite a reasonable price point. The Mahindra Scorpio was available with two engine options, both of which were quite powerful for the time. The 2.6-litre turbo diesel engine was developed in-house, and it made 109 horsepower and 250 Nm of torque. The 2-litre petrol engine was sourced from Renault and tuned by an Austrian firm called AVL, and that engine made 116 horsepower. While all this paints a pretty picture, the Scorpio did have a few niggles in its first iteration. The cheaper leaf spring suspension at the rear did make the ride of the SUV quite bouncy. The in-house developed diesel engine also had some noise, vibration and harshness or NVH problems compared to its rivals, which made it seem a little less refined. The Scorpio is also missing a few features compared to its competition. Early on, Mahindra knew they had something good here, and they committed to the Scorpio by rolling out a series of frequent updates, with the first coming as early as 2003. Over the years, Mahindra made a number of tweaks to the exterior of the Scorpio, with one of the major ones being the introduction of the now iconic dual-tone color schemes, which we all know and love. Mahindra also introduced new space-efficient seats that were also more comfortable than before. They improved the NVH levels slightly, and they added a voice assistant as well. This was the generation of the Scorpio that we first owned as a family, and we got it in the red and beige color scheme, and it was the top spec model which we all loved. Moving on to the second generation of the Scorpio, this was sold between 2006 and 2014. This got a number of cosmetic updates on the exterior, including a new set of bumpers at the front and rear, a new grille, new alloy wheels, and a new hood with a functional air scoop. It also got the infamous vertical Christmas tree style taillights. The interior also got a major update with a new instrument cluster, a 2-din music system, updated upholstery, automatic headlights, and a rudimentary version of cruise control. However, the most important updates to this generation of the Scorpio was the removal of the old leaf spring suspension in favor of the more sophisticated coilover setup at the rear, which vastly improved the ride quality, and the introduction of the all-new in-house developed 2.2-litre turbo diesel engine, which Mahindra called M-Hawk. Now this unit was not only lighter by 130 kgs compared to the older 2.6-litre unit, but it also had a higher output figure at 120 horsepower and 290 Newton meters. Due to poor demand, Mahindra ended up axing the old petrol engine from the lineup. However, they also introduced a new engine, a 2.5-litre diesel engine that only made 75 horsepower, but it was tuned to be the more frugal of the two engines on offer. Now, building on the success of the second-gen Scorpio, Mahindra developed a pickup truck version of it called the Getaway. Now, this model was not only sold in India, but also in a number of international markets like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Nepal, to name a few. In 2009, Mahindra facelifted the second-gen Scorpio, bringing a number of design tweaks to it. It got a cleaner set of front and rear bumpers, a new grille, a sleeker hood, and new alloy wheels. On the inside, Mahindra equipped it with new seat upholstery and a new instrument cluster. Mahindra also introduced a micro-hybrid system, which was nothing more than a start-stop feature for the engine that helped improve fuel efficiency. However, crucially, Mahindra added the 4-wheel drive system to the Scorpio, which made it much more rugged, better for off-road, and it's been a much-loved feature ever since. The third generation of the Mahindra Scorpio was introduced in 2014 and it has been on sale ever since, even up to present day. The big change on the third generation Scorpio was the fact that it got a new ladder frame chassis. This was the first time Mahindra had done this since the car was first launched back in 2002. The chassis was not only lighter, but it was also stiffer than before, and this helped the handling of the car a lot, helping reduce body roll significantly. Accompanying this was a number of cosmetic changes as you'd expect with a new generation model. That means new headlights, new tail lights, updated bumpers, a new hood design, new grille, and of course new alloy wheels as well. The interior of the Scorpio also got a major update as Mahindra decided to refresh the entire dashboard design. The much requested central touchscreen infotainment system was added in, and Mahindra also updated the instrument cluster as well as the upholstery of the seats. The third generation of the Scorpio still had a number of niggles. Main among them was the ride quality, which was still a little on the bouncy side, and the interiors of the car were still a mark away from its competition, as Mahindra was still struggling with fit and finish, and it predominantly used scratchy plastics around the cabin. In a bid to keep the Scorpio fresh, Mahindra rolled out a facelift for the third gen model in 2017. Now this brought with it all the cosmetic changes you'd expect, but they're all very minor in nature. The main change was inside. The infotainment system finally got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connectivity. But more crucially, under the hood, the 2.2-litre M-Hawk diesel engine had been retuned to now make 140 horsepower and 320 Newton meters of torque. Mahindra also now offered the SUV with a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now, Mahindra did introduce an all-new 4th generation Scorpio, which I'll get to in a minute. However, at its launch, they decided they weren't quite done with the 3rd generation just yet. So, they rebranded it as the Scorpio Classic and have continued to sell it to date. This new Scorpio Classic got with it some cosmetic changes like a new grille, new alloy wheels and some new color options. And inside it got new upholstery and a larger 9-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Apart from that, it remained largely mechanically unchanged. Mahindra did do one other main change, which was introduce the 2nd generation of M-Hawk engines. So it got a 2.2 liter diesel engine that now made 130 horsepower and 300 Newton meters of torque. Finally, coming back to the 4th generation Scorpio, it was launched in 2022 and Mahindra renamed it the Scorpio N. Now this was the biggest change for the model since its original launch, as it got a new chassis based on the 2nd generation Thar's ladder frame platform, and it got all new styling, meaning it didn't share any body panels with prior iterations of the SUV. And while this was a big change for the model, Mahindra did manage to retain the Scorpio's DNA in the new styling. The interiors of the Scorpio N also got a massive update compared to older Scorpios. The fit and finish was far better. Mahindra used nicer plastics all around the cabin. It got a nice 8-inch touchscreen infotainment in the center of the dashboard, and the instrument cluster was now a part digital unit. Mahindra also equipped captain seats in the middle row, and the 3rd row of seats as standard got a forward-facing seat instead of the traditional jump seats that faced sideways in older Scorpios. Now the Scorpio N got the latest generation of Mahindra's engine. That means the 2.2 liter M-Hawk engine now was tuned to make 132 horsepower and 300 Newton meters in the lower variants, and in the higher variants it made 175 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque with the 6-speed automatic gearbox and 370 Newton meters of torque with the 6-speed manual. There was also a new petrol engine that was offered, a 2-liter turbo petrol called the M Stallion engine. This made 204 horsepower and 380 Newton meters of torque with the automatic gearbox, which was a 6-speed unit, and 360 Newton meters of torque with the manual gearbox, which was also a 6-speed unit. The 4-wheel drive system is still present on the new gen Scorpio, but it is only available in the higher trims of the diesel engine variants, with both the automatic and manual gearbox options. Now, this is everything I think you need to know about the new Scorpio and its history through the years. I really hope you liked this video, and do let me know in the comment section below if there's anything that I missed and you thought should have been covered in this video. Also, let me know what your favorite generation of the Scorpio is. Now, there's plenty more content headed your way in the next couple of days. My next video goes live on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. I also really want to thank all of you for the amazing support you guys have shown me over the last week on all my videos. And if you like this video, do hit the like button, consider subscribing, and do share this video with anyone else who you know who likes cars. Good boy. Yeah, sit down.